Jack, nice to see you. Hey everyone. Oh, I think this is correct. What a lovely Thursday evening to sit, isn't it? It's so nice. This is the first time in, I can't even remember, that I actually need to wear a vest because it's a little bit cool, and I do enjoy meditating when it's a little bit cooler. It's nice, more relaxing. Hey Andreas, how's the week so far? It's been a really good week, very productive actually, and that's always nice, and really good presence. Like I measure my like how little of me is there all the time. Like there's different indicators I have for that, and this week has just been one of those week where there's just not so much of me there, and then everything is just easy. It doesn't feel like there's any passage of time. You're just there. There's no like beginning a week, end a week, or now. It's just things are just happening, and it's just now happening, and it's difficult to get irritated or annoyed. Easier to just enjoy being. So it's been a lot of that this week, which is always a good week. Hey Mats, how did it go with we talked about last time walking before we sit? Did you try that this week? Thank you for asking, Jack. I knew I forgot something. I need to get my telephone so I have a timer. Oops. Sorry about that. I had an interesting discussion today with someone. We were discussing what's different about what I say, because they were saying that what you say sounds so similar to everything else, but like there is a difference. And like, as an example, I just recorded a video, I think it was yesterday, by the lake at work, beautiful. And what we were talking about was that if you look at, everyone says you want to overcome the self, right? That's like the enemy number one in all traditions almost. And Buddhism says that basically the world is foul and you shouldn't have craving and aversions. You should just overcome those. Just don't look at that. And the self is just taken for granted that it's something bad and you should get rid of it, kind of. We focus on getting rid of the self. If you look at non-duality, they basically try to talk themselves into that they don't exist and that we're all one, so it doesn't really matter. I'm not saying this is true or false. I'm just saying they're talking themselves into believing something, and then they're trying to change how they see the self. So just kind of, if I would be harsh, I would say delude, because we don't know if it's true or not. But they're trying to change how they view the self, and then thus making the self less. What I'm doing is not really talking about getting rid of the self. I'm talking about the distortions that create the sense of self. And I don't talk about a self or an ego or any kind of anything outside of now. I'm just saying that if you look at what's happening inside of you, you can see that you're pushing and pulling against things and creating these distortions. And if you look at that long enough, you can see that if you let go of that, and you learn to enjoy being now, just experiencing now. And I don't mean just like being in the present moment. I mean really cutting away everything that you're pushing against and experiencing just a clear, non-distorted state. Then there is no sense of self. Meaning that if you take away these distortions, if you can look at them and let go of them and see that life is so much better without this pressure always constantly pushing against you, then life is more enjoyable, and then you don't feel a sense of self. That's the whole. You can still have a concept of a self, believing that this body is you, like you can say that, but you can't feel it, and that's the whole point. It doesn't matter if you change your beliefs about it, that the whole thing is how you feel, and not feeling a center point, I am here, is incredibly liberating and peaceful and calm, and just an incredible way of experiencing life. So that's the difference. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, I'm trying to in my mind, explain how to share what I'm thinking. I see Mats is saying, I'm afraid I did not. Ajabaja, like we say in Sweden. I was pretty sick the last few days and now just starting to be somewhat functional again. It's okay. You'll try it next week instead. And I'm sorry to hear you were sick. That always sucks. Whisper Wonderland. Hey, Whisper Wonderland. I don't think I've seen you here before. Welcome. Good evening to you as well. Mats, by the way, Martin, did you remember to switch from top chat to live? Yes, I did. Mats, you told me this last time. There's actually 3 chats I can see from top chat, which is what I've been doing. So I missed some of the long messages from people, which is like a shame. People must have thought I ignored them. And I can have live chat, which shows everything. And then I can have fan funding. I only see the messages where people donate money. That's like the only thing I have, because it's just loads and loads of people donating money. That's the only thing I see in the chat. Hey JVB, how you doing? So yeah, the whole point is that we're not trying to suppress anything. We're not trying to get away from anything. We're trying to really experience what you're feeling. And when you experience what you're feeling and you see like, hey, I'm doing something that's hurting myself, not changing your beliefs about what should or shouldn't be out in reality, or even what reality is. We're just changing how we're relating to reality, how we're choosing to distort towards reality. And we can make life much more enjoyable if we intentionally turn our focus towards enjoying being us, being alive. Jack Crasher, there are medical substances that can change the perception of time, like turning minutes into hours and so on. Well, yeah, there's basically my explanation about time, at least how it is perceived when you meditate, is quite simple, and it goes together with distortion. So I feel that I am here at this centered point, and then I think, oh, before someone did something to me that I didn't like, so I push against the thing that happened before. And then I have, in the future, I want to achieve this thing, and I pull towards that. And now all of a sudden, I'm not experiencing this moment. Instead, it feels like I'm spread out. It actually feels very sluggish and really difficult to move in this perception of time. And when you have a lot of it, then you have anxiety, and you have worry, and you have fear or anger, and it really it just pulls you out sideways away from where you are. But if you can collapse all of that and take all of that away, it's kind of like time is, and I think this is a misconception. People, when they experience this, they say time doesn't exist. I would not go so far, because time obviously does exist. We can experience that I am here now and then something has changed. But our perception of the passage of time is completely wrong. So the way it feels when you're not feeling a sense of self in a non-centric state, like I call it, or a strong non-dual state, is that there is no passage of time. It's just now. You can't feel, oh, before I was here and now I'm here. Or you don't feel, this just doesn't make any sense until you've lost it, because then you're like, hey, what was that? That's different. And there's not the pressure of time there, which is why if you can just experience this tiny slice of now, you can't worry, because this slice of now is already here. So when we worry about something that's going to happen now. Someone's about to hit you in the face, and we're worrying about what that's going to feel like. Now, I'm not saying don't duck, because obviously you would duck. And I'm not saying I could do that all the time. But what I'm saying is that the distortion or the worry and fear comes from protecting ourselves, our sense of self, to something that's going to happen. Or like, when I was getting blood samples the other day, and I could watch her do this, and I could see, like, okay, she's going to do this. So I could see when she put it there, I could see how my body wanted to, I don't like, I used to hate needles. I could feel the distortion towards the needle that was going to come in my arm. And that's something I'm projecting into the future. It hasn't even happened yet. So experiencing time without a sense of self doesn't feel like time exists. It's just now. Literally, it just feels like now. And there are drugs that can make people change how they perceive the time. Some, you can kick you into these states. I'm not sure that's actually something that's permanent. I don't think that, I mean, I know that doesn't work. I haven't heard of anyone being able to do that. Jack Crasher, cold water is healthy. When I was hiking in the mountain this summer, I tend to take a swim in a post-glacier lake and it's always very cold. A few minutes in it feels like hours. So that's also another thing. When you go into cold water, you stop thinking about the future and the past and all these things. You just you gather up into like what's happening now, and you just focused on being here and just surviving kind of. And probably the body sends out a lot of chemicals to make sure you're safe and that you're going to survive. Start contracting all the blood streams from the limbs and concentrating it here in the torso. It's called the mammalian reflex, which is pretty cool. Hey, Mindful Mama, nice to have you here. So my point with what I wanted to say before was that really don't try to deny something you're feeling. Don't try to push it away. Don't try to say that it's not true. Really accept what you're feeling and see that you have a choice to change what you're feeling. And if you don't believe this is possible, then just think about something terrible that happened to you before. Say a breakup is always a good thing to look at if you've had a breakup. Feel how terrible it felt when they had left you and how you could barely breathe if you were really sad and broken, heartbroken. But if you think about that thought now, probably there might be a small twinge or nothing. So it's the same experience. The same thing has happened, but you just now changed how you're relating to it. And you can actually do that consciously. It's just that we're never taught to do that. Instead, we're taught to buy more stuff, get more money, and do these things to change this. But like actually going in is like, hey, wait a minute, I don't need a better car to feel better. I don't actually do that. It's nice to have a car that's working for sure, but ultimately it doesn't really change anything unless you allow it to inside. Andreas, sometimes when I feel stressed and things don't go as planned, I try to accept and think that it's okay. After a while, it doesn't feel so hard. I have been this for a long time and it feels better. Yeah. So that's a, I should say it's halfway there kind of. What you're saying is that it's going to work out okay. I'm assuming that's what you're saying. And that will let go of so basically I have reality as I want it. How I want reality to be. So you say, I want it to be this way. Reality isn't like that. So you say, oh, I believe it's going to work out okay. The universe got my back. So you're changing how you want reality to be. You're kind of keeping it, but you're saying like, oh, it's going to be okay. So I'm not going to worry now. You haven't actually felt the worry, the fear, the anxiety of, oh shit, this is going to go away. I'm not saying it doesn't help at all. I'm just saying that it's kind of the comparison to soothing your anxiety and compared to solving your anxiety, because the next time that comes up, you're still going to have to do that. And if you get good at this, you're very good at soothing it, so you're not going to have as much problems. It's a really good approach in one way. But if you really want to get rid of the whole problematic, like the system altogether, you need to actually experience it and feel it. What does this feel like? And say, hey, wait a minute. I am choosing to ruin this moment because I believe this is going to happen, or I am afraid I'm going to lose this or gain that. And then see that that's a pretty silly thing to do. I don't need to feel bad about this. I can still make the change without hurting myself, because you're literally like stabbing yourself the whole time, hurting yourself, and we're so used to it. We think it's normal. And then we expect something from the outside to stop us hurting ourselves. But it's still, like I said, that's how most people, that would be the best outcome for most people, what you did, Andreas. And I'm not talking down on that in any way. I'm just saying that there's more you can do than just say it's going to be okay, if that's how I'm reading you correctly. JVB, if I understand you correctly, when you worry so much about the future, it is like you're breaking up your sense of consciousness into many pieces so much in the future that you stress yourself too much. Kind of like, imagine if you're here, and there is, again, I think it's just that we perceive time really poorly. Now is just now. There can't be any problems in now because it's already here. You have to reach outside of the now to feel a problem, into the past, what they did, what happened, or into the future, what could happen, what they're going to do. But right now, things are just happening. That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt when someone punches you in the face. It still does. But there's two elements to that. There's the actual, oh, this hurts and I'm getting hurt and I might damage this body. But then there's like, that's the part you get rid of. You get rid of that part. The feeling of someone punching in the face is still going to hurt. And it's still going to damage you. It's not magic. I mean, it's not going to make that stop. So by not focusing is more than focusing. By not feeling the past or the future, you don't really I could say you don't have any problems, because the feeling of a problem is not there, but you still have the issue. You still need to pay your bills. You still need to solve the car that is running towards you, and you need to get out of the way. Those problems still exist, but we kind of turn to spirituality, and especially law of attraction, to solve these problems. I'm going to change how I feel, and then I'll solve the problems. And we kind of try to go the back way and say, like, okay, I'm going to feel like I have the problem solved, and I don't have to like worry about it. But you're doing that because you want to have the thing on the outside, instead of saying, like, hey, wait a minute, I don't need either of these. I don't need this thing on the outside, and I don't need to change this. I can just look at it and see that I'm doing it, and then enjoy being here, being alive, just sitting here and feeling good, and focus on that and bring that to the forefront. So it's different from Vipassana, where we just look at things come up and take them away. Like, look at it and take it away, and you observe it and it goes away. We're actually trying to cultivate a sensation or a feeling of being in a good mood. I lost what I was saying. I hope that made sense. Maybe I got too carried away. Anyway, Jack, intense emotions are all pretty easy to recall, like feeling shame or anger or pain. Some people have been stuck in nostalgia mode for many years, with no rate change within passing time. Yeah, that's true. Time is passing as we speak. See, even though we don't have a lot of distortion towards this, the clock still changes, but the feeling of time changing doesn't need to be there. Time is interesting, and I think it's one of the things that we get stuck on the most, because if we could just experience now, really, you wouldn't have any issues. But that's easy to say. You need to feel that, and to really experience it, you need to experience what it's like to not have a sense of self. That's when all of this makes even more sense. And the reason I'm speaking about this as if though I know what I'm talking about is because I've had so many experiences when I have no feeling of me here, non-centric experiences. And when that happens, you see that, well, I can choose to make life more like that. And life is much more enjoyable. Life is much easier if you change how you relate to the world. Good. Let's sit. So for those of you who are new, we have, we usually start with a short discussion before. This is 5 minutes. We did a bit longer today, but that's fine. And then we do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, where we say out aloud 5 things we can see, 4 things we can touch, 3 things that we can hear, 2 things we can smell, and 1 thing that we can taste. And the whole idea here is not to just do the exercise. We're actually trying to experience just seeing. We just see the shapes, just the reflection of this, and the shadows and the texture. But we're trying to not have an emotional connection to it, like, oh, I know what this is, it's safe, I like it, I don't like it. We're just trying to use our senses. Side note, when you experience a non-centric experience, it's as if though you live in your senses. It's literally like you're just like stuck on the hernia of your, no, not hernia, the front of your eyes. You can't feel anything behind observing. You just are in your senses, which is why we're doing this exercise, partly because we want to help getting ourselves into the senses so we can see and just see without creating pressure, hear and feel everything without us coming in and ruining the experience. So say it out loud together with me. I'll say 5 things and you can say them together on your end. I see a checkered pair of shorts. I see a printer. I see a thermometer. I see the text Delcy. And I see a pair of wheels. So those are 5 things that I could see. 4 things that we can feel. I can feel my nose. I can feel a bit of oil on my fingers. I can feel my cup. And I can feel the carpet on the floor. And then we try 3 things that we can hear. And don't take the first obvious thing that you can hear. Really listen and see if you can find something, some kind of nuance in the sound you're hearing. I can hear something that sounds like the highway, very distant. I can hear creaking in the wagon of the office that I'm sitting in. I can hear music in a passing car. And we take 2 things that we can smell. I can smell massage oil. And I can smell some heavy spice. Some grounding. Finally, we take 1 thing that we can taste. I can taste rooibos tea. As usual, if you want to, you're free to keep on sitting, have a cup of tea with me, or ask questions if you have anything you'd like to discuss. See, that was fast or quick. Yeah, that's the thing when you're not distorting against time, it just feels like it's as when you're having fun, you don't really feel time passing. It's just like, oh, it goes so quickly, it's almost done. That's close to what it is when you're really enjoying yourself, playing and having fun. And in meditation, sometimes it can be super quick. You just sit down like, what? How did that happen? An hour just passed. And sometimes you sit and the sitting never stops. It's endless. You check the time and it's like, okay, 5 minutes. Check the time again, 4 minutes. But hey, wait a minute, time moves backwards. It's so slow. See, Mats is saying, very interesting sitting for me today. I had a very sharp meditative focus throughout and noticed that my body felt like it was in overdrive mode, like an overactive sympathetic nervous system. Okay, are we talking about almost like a vibrating feeling? Or what do you mean when in overdrive mode? Yeah. So when you sit, sometimes you can go through that. I have that also sometimes. My whole body is kind of like, there's like a stress state, and I sit and I can feel how it just go, you just kind of go through that. But sometimes you have that. That can also be easy to be focused with that feeling inside of you. Every noise sent shivers through my whole body like a very sharp reaction. My body felt very responsive to stimuli like outside noise. Okay, and that sounds almost like something else. That could be that you're simply very acutely aware. I remember when I noticed this the first time was in, what was that called? Luna's Meditation Center. I think it was in Penang, Malaysia. And I was sitting and I was so peaceful, so calm, and I heard the sounds around me and it was just quiet. There was crickets singing, and then there was just wind blowing, and I was sitting really comfortably, and someone dropped a like a needle. It sounded like a needle, a metal thing, and it dropped in like ting, ting, ting. And when that ting came, I could feel the distortion. My body went like this, almost like whoa, whoa, whoa. There was a reaction towards the sound, like a distortion. I heard something and my body wanted to react towards that. Oh, this is a metal thing, this is safe, unsafe. And I had all this distortion come up. And from sitting in that calmness to ting, 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 when that happened, it made me just jump. And I noticed that a lot after that when I started thinking about this, like, oh, actually, when you hear sounds, there's distortions coming inside of you, and something sharp can be almost violent in comparison. See, Andreas is saying, during the meditation, I experienced a great feeling of heaviness in my hands. It felt very strange. I observed the feeling for some time, and all of a sudden the feeling disappeared. Yeah, perfectly like standard meditation stuff. Sometimes you feel like you're really heavy. It can be, and then sometimes it's light. Sometimes you feel like your arm goes out, it extends. Sometimes you don't feel like you have an arm, and sometimes it feels like you have a limb growing out of your head. The feeling of I am here, this is me, distorts towards your whole body kind of. And when we sit and we start letting go of this, it can change. And it's quite common that you feel, as I said, like you feel like you're extending beyond your body. It's not just here, there's a limb going out or a feeling going out kind of. And I'm not saying, oh, you're feeling the feelings of the sofa. I'm just saying it feels as if though you were wider. And that can change and move around quite a lot. It can feel like you get very squished and become very small. It can really, a lot of weird stuff can come up like that. Mats is saying, yeah, I felt very strong reactions, distortions, but also could feel that those were separate from me in a way. I do not need to give in to the distortions, although my body felt nervous and jumpy. But that doesn't mean that I have to do something because of that. I felt like there was some distance. Yeah, really good. That's seeing that it's just, it's like I said, when we see something we don't like, a good example would be, one of the exercises I give my students is what I call a movie meditation, right? So say you have a really hard time with conflict, you're talking to someone in a difficult situation. You sit yourself in front of the TV. I usually do, like a laptop is what I would use when I was a monk, and I would start a movie, and I would sit and I would just press pause and have it on the screen, and I would sit and it would be a movie with lots of conflict. And then I breathe and I be calm and I say, okay, I don't have a lot of distortions now, and then I start the movie. And the movie starts like dun, 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 and then all of a sudden comes up and like, oh wait, there's a distortion, and I pause it. And I see this distortion moving around. Okay, oh that's, yeah, and I can just let go of that and see that I'm creating this, and I kept watching. Then there's a big conflict, and I feel like, oh, I'm reacting. It's like I'm in that conflict. I feel bad for the person on the screen. Now, if you can see that this is something that's happening on the screen, it's not even real. The person in the movie were acting. Then it's not a real thing, but they're making you feel this distortion towards something that's unreal, and still you're suffering. You're still making yourself do that. So if you sit with a movie and you watch something that you find difficult, you can become detached from it and realize it's not happening to me. It's like I don't even have to worry about this, but still I'm causing this distortion inside of me. Still I'm stabbing myself all over because there's something difficult for me to even see this. And it can be easier to let go of the idea that you need to act upon these distortions when you see them on a screen. And it also makes it more clear that why am I ruining this moment? Why am I feeling this pain now when it's not even happening to me? So that's a good exercise. But yeah, that's really nice if you could see that it's not something you need to act upon. You see someone you don't like, oh, I need to punch them, or I need to be angry. You don't sound like a violent person, but the feeling of distortion towards someone wanting to act upon it, that's what we're taking away. That doesn't mean that you all of a sudden think, hey, they're a great person. They're acting like idiots towards me, but they're wonderful people. I so agree with what they do. That's not what we're talking about. We're just dropping the distortion, and then you can take an action without hatred, anger, ill will. It's just what's the best choice to do. And if someone is behaving poorly towards you, then you would very likely walk away from there if you have the option to do so. Mats, is there anything you can do to more actively let go? I feel like noticing is already 90% of the way, but maybe to something else that can let go. Okay, so this is, now we're getting into the good stuff. When you do Vipassana, the whole idea is you just notice. You don't change anything. Buddhist meditation basically says that we just observe things as they are without trying to change them. But what we try to do here, or at least the method that I'm teaching, is that we try to move to our senses, because you'll notice that when you let go, the way you can do that is you can first of all look at it and see, hey, wait a minute, I'm doing this. This is a pretty silly thing to do. And at the same time, you move to your senses. One thing you'll start noticing when you start looking for this is that when you have strong distortions, it's kind of like your vision goes hazy. You're not really seeing clearly. You're not really looking. Like, and I'm talking, that's why I do the exercise in the beginning, like looking, really seeing what you're seeing. You're kind of having this like, it's almost like it's watching through, what do you call that? Plastic you wrap over food. We call it gladpack in Swedish, but it's like a plastic you wrap over the food. You can still see through it, but it's like a bit hazy. And imagine that's smeared with all kinds of stuff, and there's several layers. That's what it feels like when you feel this thing you're trying to let go of, and you try to look outside. So by trying to actually look and be aware, you can say like, no, your body doesn't want to do that, and it pulls you back into the distortion, and you're stuck with it. And you try to actually view something, but you keep being pulled back. That's one of the things. You focus on your senses, and the vision is the easiest thing to do, but you can also feel things and experience and really feel them. Typical example of being lost in your distortions is when, if anyone has a driver's license and you're driving the car, you've been driving for half an hour and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm already here. I don't remember anything. You're just lost in a fantasy in your mind. Your body still functions. You can still react towards things coming around you, but you're not there. You're lost in this distortion. The second thing is, which is similar to this, is that you focus on being in a good mood, because the distortion is kind of anti-good mood. It doesn't want you to be in a good mood. It feels bad or it feels different. But when I say good mood, I don't mean as in like when you won a game, good mood. I mean good mood as a wide feeling of just warmth, of just pleasantness, or just good mood is the best way that I can describe the feeling we're aiming for. But just when you're walking in nature and you don't need to do anything, you're just in a good mood. You're just appreciating the things around you, and they go together. When you're in a good mood, you start appreciating the world around you and really looking at things and like, wow, that's a beautiful tree standing over there, and look at the bark, the way it goes up, and then over there, oh, there's a puddle there. There's a lot of mud in that puddle. That's interesting. There's foot tracks, and you really become engaged with your surroundings, and then it feels like, wait, I'm just skipping it. I need to feel bad to kind of do something about this, and you'll start to feel this kind of almost struggle that your distortion wants to pull you into the struggle. It doesn't let you just experience reality, which is what I said, what we're really trying to do. We're not trying to not be reborn, stop the birth of karma. Like that, I have no idea about that. I can't tell you anything. We're not even trying to have meditative states. The only thing we're trying to do is to see the world through our senses without this distortion. And when you do that, you'll notice that you're in a good mood and you're feeling good. You're feeling happy that you are you, that you're experiencing reality, and everything around you feels just, there's a sense of perfection, or in the beginning there's a strong sense of something, how should I say it? Like when you go into a big church, when you see this, like, wow, and you almost feel like everything is sacred, everything is perfect, everything's just, oh, you don't want to scream in there. It just feels wrong to scream and disturb this silence, this peacefulness, this calmness is in there. The silence or the stillness comes from you not distorting. So many people say, oh, just be quiet and listen. What they're actually trying to say, even though they probably don't understand that, is that this distortion, this vibrating feeling that's constantly pushing is gone, and then it feels like you're still, like you're quiet. So focus on just enjoying being there, actually being happy with where you are, and focus on your senses, like those two things. And you'll see that if it's something that you find difficult and you think like, okay, well, all of a sudden it just drops, it doesn't feel difficult. Like, well, that's just because I'm not focusing on it. Then you make yourself feel bad again, and then you go out of it. And when you do that, you kind of break this idea that it has to be this way. And then again, you turn towards this feeling like, why am I hurting myself like this? This is the only moment I have to enjoy being now. Because as I said, when you're experiencing reality without a sense of self, it's like it's just now. You really can't experience the passage of time. It's just now. So the only time you have to really enjoy being here and being you is now. Are you going to wait until that now? Just until the circumstances around you align, until you have the perfect job, the perfect wife, the perfect salary, the perfect health, whatever it is? Just why not just do it now? So break the idea that you are not allowed to enjoy being here. Let's see, Jack, message retracted. Mats, I sometimes feel like my distortions bypass my mind and go straight into my gut. At least I can't notice any thoughts, but just pure anxiety in my stomach and guts. Today I noticed that my mind has an automatic reaction to it and interpret it as realistic fear, which has to be addressed immediately. Yes, so that's another thing. This is why I say that it's not about your thoughts. Even though the thoughts are closely linked, you can still have the anxiety, and we tend to just say then general anxiety, but you still have the anxiety, but there's no reason why. You can't see the feeling why, the reason why you have this anxiety. And when people try to change their concepts of reality, they say, okay, if I just don't have any concepts of why I should be angry, then you don't feel angry. But you can still feel this, even though you don't have a concept of any conflict with the world. But it's the feeling conflict that's the problem. You can have a lot of distortions and not have any thoughts about it. There are some people who actually don't have thoughts, who can't feel, who can't hear any thoughts in their mind like everyone else does. There's videos about this. Just like search Google and you'll see it. I don't know what it's called. It has some kind of name. I don't know what it's called. But they still suffer. They still feel bad. They still they have these ups and downs as well. So it's not about the concepts, your thoughts, even though that seems like the first thing that makes sense. But if you look like Mats did here, you'll see that actually it's a feeling. And then your mind goes into that and tries to come up with an answer. Many times you'll notice if you have a partner, and sometimes in the mornings you'll be in a bad mood. It's not that your partner did anything or that you did anything. It just, you woke up with this difficult feeling inside of you. And just with that difficult feeling, there's no reason. There's no thoughts about it. There's just, and then something happens and you, bam, snap onto that. And like, oh, I can't believe I did this. And oh my, and you get angry. And you just, your mind just comes up with an excuse. They're making me feel this. This is why it happens. But the feeling was already there. So don't get distracted by your thoughts. They're not really the issue. The issue is the distortion you have towards those thoughts. And many times the distortion comes first and the mind just comes up with stuff like, oh yeah, I know this distortion. You said, pure anxiety in my stomach and guts today. I noticed that my mind has an automatic reaction to it and interprets it as realistic fear. So you have this feeling and then the mind, okay, fear, I'm afraid of something. And you recognize that feeling as fear. That doesn't mean it actually is fear. It's just a feeling. And you could start searching, okay, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of being allergic to wool. It's the wool that I'm afraid of. And subconsciously, I know that you could come up with all these reasons. Or you could just, as I said, start looking at this and then start turning towards your senses. And you'll notice that you can't see reality clearly. It would almost be like it's hazy and you kind of drift off into this daze in your mind. And if you try to enjoy, you'll notice immediately, no, I'm not allowed to enjoy. I feel bad now. I feel anxiety. I'm not allowed to enjoy. I'm oversimplifying. Obviously, it's not that easy to just say, like, I'm just going to enjoy. But with practice, if you do this, and this is not something that we're going to fix in 2 weeks or a month or 2 or 3. This is something that after you've done this for a year, I've done this since 2010 or something like that. That's 14 years. The difference is insane after that much time. But in the beginning, it just didn't make any sense. And I didn't understand how to do that. It just kind of came naturally. And I just noticed, oh, wait a minute, when I do this, actually, one of the main reasons it happened was that I practiced in Theravadan centers where we did Vipassana, insight meditation, 10 to 15 hours per day, like really, really intensely. And I noticed that I was very focused, like here, and I could, as things came up, I snapped them like this. But I would have to constantly be snapping and I had to be really focused and really aware and really alert to what was coming up. And then I went to Plum Village in France where they focus on just enjoying, being present. They talk a lot about enjoy, God and nature and enjoy and be happy. Don't harm other human beings, be harmless and be kind to other beings and don't hurt anyone. And they just walked around. And when I came with the focused mind of sitting so much to a place where I just enjoyed and just appreciated things, then it really clicked together. Then all of a sudden, all of this stuff made sense. There was no feeling of me there, and I kept popping into all these strong sense, non-centric experiences, which is why I started like, wait a minute, enjoying and actually being happy is a big part of it. It's not that we just snap the things that come up. And it's not that we just feel happy also, because they had a hard time doing that because they hadn't trained their mind. But when you put both of these two together, when you have a trained mind who is actively trying to change your distortion towards things and just letting go of them and seeing like, hey, I can be in a good mood right now. I don't need to get that new car to be in a good mood. In fact, it's downright stupid to go around and wait until I get the car before I get in a good mood. I mean, seriously, if you think about it, that's just dumb. Why would you wait to enjoy being here until you got a car? You could enjoy now. And you say, well, I don't have a car at all, Martin. Of course. Yeah. I'm not saying you couldn't have use of a car, but I'm saying, why are you not allowing yourself to enjoy being here now, being happy being you, just because you expect something else to change that? Let's see. Mats. So the mind latches onto the underlying feeling, but how can I let go of this distortion? So that was 9:03. Oh, time has gone quickly. Yeah, so that's Mats, to answer your question. You focus on being in a good mood, and you'll see that you're not allowed to. This underlying feeling is not going to let you do that. But really try to enjoy, try to be happy, and just be in a good mood, and you see that you're not allowed to for this feeling. And then when you start looking at that, you're like, hey, wait a minute, why am I not allowing myself because of this thing? And the other thing is use your senses. You go into your senses and start experiencing reality, and then you'll start seeing that there's kind of like a haze. You're not really there. You're not even noticing many of your senses. You're just seeing, but kind of like in a haze. Teenagers in cash registers in supermarkets are some of the worst examples sometimes of this. They kind of sit like bleep, bleep, bleep. That would be $9.99, please, thank you. Bleep, bleep, and they're not even there. They're just somewhere else. They checked out. JVB, I sometimes invest a lot of emotions into people who say will help me, but eventually end up disappointing me. I like to get better at not being affected by how unbelievable people can be. Any ideas? It's 21:08. That's a long one. Thank you for your time. Jack says, Jack, thanks. This is really useful. Thank you, Mats. I'm happy you feel that way. And really try it. It's not a quick fix. And that goes for you too, JVB. It's actually later than I thought. It's the same thing. I try to make this, it's difficult sometimes because I want to help people, but at the same time, I don't do personal development. My point is not to help JVB figure out how to not be affected by this. What I'm trying to do is help JVB see that he can be in a good mood despite these things, to learn how to use his senses, and then he himself will know the best solution to the problem, because we don't know all the information for his situation. I'm just using you as an example, JVB. But if you can actually start feeling this, when you start looking at this distortion and letting go, and know how you can start being in your senses and start actually choosing to be happy and to enjoy being you and enjoy being here, then you're no longer having this fear, this worry, and then you will know the best solution to the problems. I mean, I think it's insane, for instance, how people come to monks and ask for advice on how to take care of kids. We live in celibacy. We don't even have a partner. And you're coming to us, well, me when I was a monk, and asking us for advice on how to handle kids. And I always said that to people, like, I can understand how the mind works, but I am not a parent. I don't know what it's like to have kids. And having kids now and being a parent, I can absolutely say that unless you have kids, you just don't understand what it's like. You cannot do that. You can believe, oh, I have a dog, it's the same kind of, it might be a similar thing, but really, until you have children, you don't really know what it feels like to have a child, to be there when they came out of your fiance or yourself if you're a woman, and then to see that child be completely helpless, and then how you take care of it and nurture it, feed it, change it, the diapers, and take care of it until it grows up, and then it starts talking, and the joy of seeing a child actually expressing emotions and laughing and becoming a person and standing up, walking around, and then you see their face turning into, like, instead just a baby face, actually turning into a person. It's like you cannot understand what it feels like to have a child. Why did I start talking about this? I got really passionate when I talked about kids. I'm sure I had a point about that. Sorry if I got lost. I'm a little bit tired here also. Anyway, thank you everyone for tonight. And sorry if I went on a bit of a ramble there at the end. I don't actually remember what I mentioned. But it was fun, and I hope you have a great weekend. And I will see everyone on Monday again. Take care and focus on enjoying. Just do that until next time. Focus on being in a good mood. And when you see that you can't, then look inside and say, why not? Why am I not allowing this? And at the same time, be aware of your senses, because you'll see that your vision becomes kind of blurry and you're not really aware of what's happening around you. Nice. Sleep well, everyone, and thank you for today. A pleasure as always.